Broadcasting live from the center of the universe. It's Business School without the BS.
We're going to win with every single facet. We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
Yes, 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 and yes. Here we are, Andrew, joined with Steve Currington inside the box that rocks for yet another celebratory edition of Wins of the Week. And today, Steve, I am very, very fired up about today's Wins of the Week. You know why?
Why? Tell me.
Because we have some thrivers out there who have made the choice to no longer invoice.
Ooh.
We have some contractors out there that have decided to make the change, the one change needed that will stop them from having to look for change in the couch. We have certain entrepreneurs out there who have made the choice to no longer live by invoice. So let's explain this idea. Steve, you are not a contractor. You are a mortgage banker. The company that you are a part of has gone from $0 of mortgages per year to $251 million of mortgages per year. Total Ending Concepts, your website, stevecurrington.com. Awesome. Andrew, you're a coach. From your layman's perspective as a mortgage banker, Steve, why do most contractors, doctors, dentists, lawyers, business people invoice other companies as opposed to just getting payment and receiving payment and acquiring payment at the point of purchase? Why are most business owners operating very differently from like a convenience store where you go in to buy some gum and they charge you for the gum and you leave with some gum? You go in to buy avocados, you leave with avocados, you pay for the avocados before you leave. Why are contractors, dentists, doctors, lawyers, average business people fascinated and obsessed and committed to invoicing?
I think people are afraid to ask for the money. That's why
there
they do
it
it.
is.
They're
So
afraid
true.
to ask for it. They're afraid that asking for the money is going to mean that they're not going to get hired.
So let's role play this real quick, okay? You recently hired somebody about 3 or 4 years ago to do some remodeling in your house of some kind.
Yep.
And I think you had made the comment to me, the job was completed, and you didn't even get an invoice or a bill for like 90 days after the job was done. Is that accurate?
Yeah. That's always how it happens.
And Andrew,
impressive.
you work with doctors, dentists, lawyers, people of all different trades.
It's true.
Do you see this? I mean, do you see that your average client having a ton of money owed to them in their accounts receivable column?
Yes, it's very common. Very, very common.
Why?
Why? I think one of the biggest reasons is that's the biggest reason people give is because one of them is because that's just the way it's always happened. It's just the
that's
way
how we
people do it.
Which
That's
is why
just
I drove a
how you
horse.
do it.
Which is why I rode a horse to work today.
Me too.
Yeah, everybody rides
It's the way it
horses.
always
Yeah, it's
was
just the
for
way
the
everybody
first
does.
thousands of years. You know, I thought, well, that's the way it's always done.
That's right.
That's why I use an abacus to do my math.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm wearing a robe today and sandals.
a good-looking robe.
That's why I only wash my hair with water, if I wash it at all, because back in the day, it's been for thousands of years, Steve, people didn't have running water.
Right.
And that is why I tend to use a ditch to use the restroom.
Yeah, I do too.
Whenever
Actually,
I
at
need
the Thrive offices, they don't. You walk through the men's restroom door,
Yeah.
and on the other side is just a field with a ditch.
And some leaves.
A lot of people think there's a restroom in there, but it's not. It's just a field with a ditch, and then there's a guy over there pooping.
that's down, Steve.
Oh, wow.
Steve, have you read a lot about American history?
Yeah, a fair amount. Yeah.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's look up some common names, awesomely common names that were very, very common back in the day. All right?
Okay.
And let's talk about it. Do you know a lot of people named Mabel now? I mean, people that were born, are people naming their kids Mabel?
No Mabels.
Really?
I mean, I haven't met one. I mean, seems I recognize the name.
What about, do you see a lot of people with kids being born today who are naming their kids Frank? A lot of boys being named Frank?
No, not very many Franks. I know a Frank, but he's probably in his 60s.
Now, a very popular name in 1881, one of the most popular names in 1881 for females it's an incredible name, Bertha.
Bertha.
Do you see a lot of parents naming their kids Bertha?
No. I heard about a golf club named Big Bertha.
What percentage of our employees
Callaway.
today are riding a horse to the office, Andrew? What percentage of them did you see? They tied up the horse. They did the
watering trough. Yeah,
that's my horse sound. And then they get there. And what percentage of the employees do you see doing the horse move?
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Riding the horse to work.
None.
Why?
Whoa, hold on a minute now.
So you're saying that
nobody?
the justification, we have three justifications as I see as to why we would want to invoice and not get paid when we do the service. There's maybe three major reasons why we would not want to get paid up front. One is we say, well, that's just the way we've always done it. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Okay. That's not a move, though. It's interesting. It's not a move. Two is you say, well, most other contractors are doing it. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know about you guys, but according to Inc. magazine, 96% of businesses fail by default. So I'm just telling you, I don't know that I want to do what most people are doing.
Right. They're all failing.
And third is we're afraid to ask for the money.
Yeah.
So let's role play this. In the first scenario, Andrew, you're going to be a deadbeat client.
I'm ready.
Who can't afford to pay me.
Okay.
And we've not done any work yet. I'm going to ask you for the close. I want you to nicely reject me. Okay. And then somehow try to coerce me into financing you. Okay?
Okay.
Here we go. So Andrew, the pool, to install the pool, it's $127,000. All I need is 1/4 up front to get started. Do you want to do a debit card or credit card or check, or how did you want to take care of the initial upfront payment?
So how much?
It will be 20%.
20%
of 127,000. So I
Okay.
take the 127,000 127,000 times 0.2. You need to write just stroke a check for $25,400. Just stroke that check, just 25,400, or debit card or credit card.
Okay. Do you have like some financing, maybe a third party I can use?
Oh, there are great third-party financing companies. We actually have it pulled up here. There's one company right here. I got it pulled up. Let's go ahead and have you just fill out the credit app. I've got my preferred lender actually in the other room, Steve Currington.
Yep. I'm here.
So Steve, why don't you come on in here and run this guy's credit, and we'll get them all qualified.
Yeah.
All right. So Andrew, I'll let you guys run the credit thing.
Andrew, you're approved. Here's your check. Just kidding. No, I mean it doesn't go that fast, but yeah.
So if you now imagine,
but you're pushing along that conversation.
But go ahead and deny him. Deny him. Tell me.
Deny me.
Sorry. Hold on. I'm doing the breathe through the teeth. We're not able to lend that kind of money on your house isn't really worth that. So
can I get like some sort of extension?
So that's the scenario, okay? So an organization that lends money to people that need credit is called a bank.
It's true.
Or a credit bureau. And their core, I have a definition of the bank ready to go. The definition of a bank, this is what a bank means. A bank is a financial institution licensed to receive deposits and make loans. Banks may also provide services such as wealth management, currency exchange, and safety deposit boxes. There are two types of banks. There's a commercial bank, there's a retail bank, an investment bank. In most countries, banks are regulated by the national government or central banking. A plumber is not a bank.
Nope.
A foot doctor is not a bank. A dentist is not a bank. A cosmetologist is not a bank. So why, Steve, do business owners want to act like a bank if they're not a bank?
They scared.
So if Andrew in this case wanted to install a pool and he does not qualify for third-party financing, then he does not qualify to do business with you.
Right. But I talked to a guy last night.
Yep.
Just to kind of reference what you're talking about. I talked to a guy last night. He wants to buy a house.
Yep.
But he doesn't have any money to put down.
Yep.
And I said, okay, well, you don't qualify. Your debt ratios are high. He's like, well, I want to do this down payment assistance. I'm like, well, that's fine, but you're on commission, and you've only been on commission for a year, so I can't do that. I said, if
you want to, you get a commission, but you want to.
I get paid by close loans, but I'm like, so he's like, well, what am I supposed to do? And I said,
law of cause and effect. The effect would be don't buy a house.
You're not going to buy a house. That's what you're going to do.
Oh.
Like you can call me in like a year when you have 2 years and maybe you save some money.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I can do like 1%. And I'm like, dude, that won't work. Like, I don't understand. Like, you're not getting it. Like,
so what we did is we've had this conversation with hundreds at this point, maybe even thousands of entrepreneurs. But we have 5 entrepreneurs who've come forth with a testimony.
Yes.
Sharing about how they have made the choice to no longer invoice. They have made the one-time decision to make that change that makes them no longer have to look for change in their couch.
that's right.
These people have decided to stop invoicing, and you know what? It's increased their sales.
That's
Shut
true.
the front door.
It's increased their sales.
Someone grab that
The
door.
only thing that's decreased at all is their accounts receivable.
Oh,
The money coming in the bank has increased.
so good.
The sales have increased. Now we are enjoying a feast. And without any further ado, it is now time for
Wins of the Week!
3, 2, 1. Here we go.
Doing the bullpens, feeling the flow, working.
You can do it.
Hello, my name is Daniel with Daniel's Heating and Air here in Amarillo, Texas. I just want to tell you a little bit about how my life was when I was invoicing customers. It was total chaos in the office every time we had to invoice a customer. When it was time to give a customer a bill, they'd turn into a ninja. They'd ghost me. They'd take off. All of a sudden they had things to do. And that caused the office to spend half the day, almost every day, chasing down customers that owed us. At one point, there was a time when we had a total of $60,000 to $70,000 that was owed to us, and we were chasing these people down constantly. And after we stopped invoicing customers, we ended up coming up with a new game plan. And that game plan was to offer them that $7 diagnostic fee for first-time customers, and then we would, in order to save their spot on the schedule, we would need to take payment. So we'd either take a check over the phone or the credit card number, and this has improved so much, taken away so much headache from my business, and now the people in the office can focus on things they really need to be focusing on instead of chasing down customers that owe us money. So this has drastically improved the business, and a lot less stress, definitely, and it's been great. So.
My name is Doug Yarholer. My company is Metal Roof Contractors. We are located in Edmond, Oklahoma. The main problem is trying to plan or predict cash flow. So typically if we're 30 days out, we're very fortunate. We're starting to see 60 days as far as payment. So we've got procedures. If we pass certain days, which is very regular now, it just takes a lot of effort to make sure that we're collecting and getting paid on time. We've been relatively fortunate in that we've been able to mostly cash flow everything, but still very irritating that the person on the other side doesn't have the same urgency that we have.
Okay, and have you had to put somebody specifically in charge of collecting with that system?
Yes, we've got an accountant or bookkeeper, so she job costs, but that's part of her role is to collect, or
okay.
at least attempt to collect.
Yeah, and how much time would you say each week that person is spending in collections? On average, about an hour
Probably
each
about
week.
An hour a week.
Okay,
That's
right.
Sending out statements or correspondence as far as payment status update, and then discussing it in a weekly cash flow meeting.
Okay. And so now I know over the past several months, actually over this last year, you've been making a move into starting to take on clients that you are not invoicing. Tell me about some of that movement and how that has worked and the value of that for you.
Sure. We still send out invoices, but the payment turnaround is much quicker. So it's not necessarily tied up in public money either. So I don't know if that's the issue. But it's more of a private source, and the terms are negotiated up front. So a lot of times when we get payment on a public side, we've got an invoice. Invoice has got to make it through the architect, get approved, go through a board or a group of individuals who then have to approve it again, then cut a check to our customer. Then our customer has to cut a check to us. Whereas now we invoice owner and owner pays us. So I assume maybe that's the turnaround time difference, but much shorter, much easier, much more defined. So we know if we're not getting paid, we know who the source is.
Okay. And what was it like? I know when I first introduced this idea to you, there was a little bit like, Clay, I don't think that'll work in my company, in my industry, you know. But tell me a little bit about what the transition has been like as you have started to move toward getting your money quicker through these private clients, and specifically, Doug, with the addition of private clients rather than just all public.
Oh, I think the appeal is the control. So on the public side, a lot of that's bid work. So slow pay is definitely an issue, but also I have no control when a public entity wants to put out a job to bid. On the other side, private side, there's less steps in getting paid, and there is some control. We can set up systems to seek work, to find leads, and go get the work. So to me, that's the appeal. We'll never leave the public work because we're in a market such that we're in demand. So that's still good work for us. But there's some work on the public side that we've been forced to take in the past that's not really our business model. And it's hard to do. It's irritating. It's hard to schedule. So the idea of having control over a schedule, control over who our customer is, and it's just a matter of us going and getting it, is very attractive.
Yeah, and how have you? What kind of changes have you had to make in being able to go after that private work and that work that pays faster? What have you had to do differently to get that kind of work versus what you were doing before?
We've had to be intentional and create procedures. So, I mean, which sounds pretty obvious, but it's just a matter of scheduling time to run through steps that we use to acquire work or acquire leads. And then it's just a function of being routine with it. Make sure that we're tracking who we're calling, how we're calling, what's the result. You know, if we're not getting a result that we want, we can change it. So I would say probably a more organized and intentional approach has really been the only change.
Okay.
With the same set of people, so.
Yeah. With the same set of people on your team, you mean?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Well, all right. And let's see. Have you, in the last year, how much money have you been able to close on with this new direction, adding this new direction to your company model?
To date, it's roughly around $800,000 that we've signed contracts for with private work. So some of those were already existing customers, but it's still the same process for us.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic.
And that, you know, I'd say there's still, you know, work that we're in the hunt for and really have our sights set on.
Yeah. And then let's see, Doug. I'm gonna ask you a question about the Dream 100. Okay.
Yeah.
And have this private work that you've been getting, has any of that been coming through the Dream 100 that you've been doing?
Yes.
Okay.
Through
All
our
right.
Dream
Yeah.
100, I'd say roughly about $80,000 has come from Dream 100, which there's still, like I said, there's some sales out there that we haven't closed yet, and we're still learning on what's best practice. But really feel like that's a great opportunity to expand our network. So while we may not be closing contracts with them right now, we feel we've got the opportunity in the future.
Okay. And what advice or what encouragement would you give to another contractor that's in this space where they've been doing primarily public work, either public work or they've had in their business model is the invoice process? What encouragement would you say to somebody that's in that kind of that model, and we have invited them to step over into not invoicing? What kind of encouragement would you give to somebody that's sitting there going, "Oh, that would never work for me"?
Yeah, well, if it were my competition, I would tell them not to give it a shot. No, I think if the end game is to have control over your sales flow, what comes in, then it just takes a little extra work up front. It takes a little organization, but a little taste of it really gives you the motivation to keep going. And for me, it's about that control. It's about tracking, and I know that if I do this many times, we're going to have a shot at this much work. So for me, and we'll never, like I said, you don't have to leave. You can pick what you want to from the public side, but this gives you the control. This gives you the freedom to really focus in on what you do well and what you can make money at.
Hi, my name's Steven. My incredible coach, Jason, asked me if I'd share a little bit about invoicing and how it's changed our business not to invoice. So we run a manufacturing company called Mod Scenes, and I have a couple of questions to answer. So what was our life like when we were invoicing? Not super great. We did a lot of work where, since we do manufacturing, a lot of expenses would go out on the front end, and then on the back end, we'd be caught trying to chase people down for money to be able to pay for the materials that we'd already, cut and sent to the clients. So obviously that was not a huge, great thing. It's constantly thinking through, okay, what money coming from which job can go to the next job. It put us in a place where we had to spend a ton of time thinking through the money part of it. And on a consistent basis, we'd have clients who wouldn't pay, or they would take 45 days instead of 30 or 60 days to pay. We even had one client, I think it took us almost 200 days to get paid on, tens of thousands of dollars worth of material. So it became a very big sticking point really quickly. So I was concerned whenever we stopped invoicing because I was worried I wouldn't get that work. There have been a couple of small times that's happened, but honestly, in retrospect, I see that I probably didn't need those people as clients anyways, because we ended up doing a lot of work for them, and by the time all of our time was put into chasing down money from those and actually getting the finished product to where we were happy with it and they were happy with it, it ended up being more time than we probably were paid for. So since then, our life's improved. About 90% of our business is paid up front. Another probably 7% of it is there's a large deposit paid on, and only a very select few customers get invoiced, and they're typically on a net 30. But those are customers we've had since the beginning, and they're outstanding. So I hope this is helpful. I'd be happy to answer any other specific questions if it helps you. Thanks.
Steve, now we have another thriver out there who started a company called Window Ninjas, my friend. His story, Gabe's story, is unbelievable. You don't invoice clients. You take credit cards over the phone, which this is a thing that has, it takes me usually with a client 2 years of good coaching to get a client who's a contractor to quit invoicing and to just tell the client, hey, if you want to hire me, it's going to be this much, so debit card or credit card. What I found that 95%, this is not, Andrew, you've seen this, 95% of services, and I'm talking about dentists, doctors, professionals, accountants, 95% of consumers will give you a credit card over the phone if you ask, and then it totally eliminates billing. Gabe, I understand that you started not invoicing, and it took you less than 2 years. Andrew must be a better teacher than me. How long did it take you to stop invoicing?
Less than a week. Like Andrew helped me with some scripts that we were formulating, and in that script he had written out exactly about capturing the credit card number, and we tweaked the script a little bit and didn't ever change that part, and we ran with it, and it was like shooting fish in a barrel. Every one of the employees that got onto the script was like capturing credit card numbers faster than ever, and they kept running them into the accounting office, and it almost broke the system. It was that many that fast. And
accounts receivable is a thing of the past. You're collecting all the money up front now.
Exactly. I went into my accounting office manager's her office, and I said, so what are you going to do with all this free time that's going to be freed up by you not making collection calls?
She'll be getting
and she looked at me like I was crazy.
She's going to get
she
reviews.
Said, I never thought about that. Her exact words. She goes, oh, my God, what am I going to do?
Yeah, there's
it's
people,
a win-win.
There's people out there who have a full-time person devoted to collecting money. Can you please educate the listeners out there? Has it hurt your business in any way?
No, not at all. It's amazing. People just want to give you that card number. They just know that it's part of the process, too. And when you script things and they understand, it's just like, this is the process. They can pay with cash or check at the time of service. We don't have to run their card. We give them those three options. However, we have that card, and we're just not going to be collecting money 30, 60, or 90 days after a simple service like window cleaning. It's just ridiculous.
Are you telling me that you used to have to chase people for payment?
Oh, my God. We're still chasing people. Before we implemented this, I've got a lady who we serviced her home who lived in somewhere in South Carolina, and she ended up moving clear across halfway over to where you're at. She's in Denver, and we're constantly trying to collect money from her. We're always trying to hound her on the phone, and she's just dodging us. It's pathetic.
With Coach Don Calvert, America's most beautiful man and the founder of Score Basketball. Coach, how long have you been self-employed?
For 25 years.
And how long ago did you and I meet approximately?
About 7 years.
Yeah. And I remember we were introduced through a banker over there at Spirit Bank, I believe. And they told me you had a fine coaching program, but that you spent a lot of your time chasing down checks from people.
Yes.
Could you explain what life was like before you and I met and you were chasing checks?
It was my biggest headache because you're going to have so many bounce every week. You've got to chase people down to pay you. People don't bring their checks. They make excuses for their checks. They forgot their checks. They changed bank accounts. There's so many excuses when you deal with that.
And it's kind of like death by invoice. You give parents a little bill and you say, "Hey, pay next time I see you," and then you're just slowly dying. Talk about the amount of time you had to spend chasing checks and getting payment when you were essentially billing people and trying to collect later.
It actually was the biggest headache of all the business. It's the one thing that I didn't want to do. One thing I didn't want to deal with. It hangs over your head all the time. It's like a dark cloud because your business can't succeed if you don't get these checks in. It also changes relationships with people, and it changes how you deal with your client because they know they need to pay.
You're like, listen here, little Bobby. I know you got money. You're shaking money out of the kid. Okay.
So you feel differently about people. You look at people differently.
Well, then I proposed, because I've done this with a lot of fitness companies, a lot of gyms, a lot of businesses, hey, let's switch to a membership model where we get the credit card on file, and we charge at the first of the month, every month, a flat rate, regardless of little Bobby shows up or not. They can come as much as they want, essentially, but we're going to charge a flat amount so we can budget on it. What was your initial hesitation to that?
Actually, I didn't want to do it. I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. It's like, oh, man. I was worried. I was worried that we would lose customers, that people would be upset at me, that it wouldn't work, that people wouldn't want to sign up because of that.
Yeah.
To be honest, I was totally wrong about all of it.
Okay.
I thought we'd lose customers. As far as I know, we didn't lose any.
Yeah.
I thought that people would be upset. I didn't have one complaint the entire time. People actually got it. They understood it because other people do it. And as far as people not wanting to sign up for it, what they figured out, and we helped them see this, was we made it a better deal by them signing up. They could come more times because of it.
So for all the people watching who are maybe doing, maybe they have like an office supply company, maybe they're an attorney, they own a basketball facility, they're a physical trainer. There's some business out there where they don't have people on a membership model, and they're just, or they don't bill people right. They don't charge people right away. They're charging people later and invoicing them and collecting checks. What advice would you have for them?
Well, number one, get rid of the headaches. You don't want that hanging over your head. It completely takes away of most of your headaches when you don't have to deal with that anymore.
And as a consumer, if you hired somebody to come fix the plumbing at Score Basketball and they told you that you had to pay right there, debit card or credit card, would that bother you as a consumer as opposed to them mailing you an invoice 2 months later?
No, it doesn't affect the people at all. I've never had one complaint about that. When they see that your product is good, they don't have problems with paying and everything. Plus, it's what everybody does, so it's kind of the normal thing. And so once we get over the initial shock of doing it, we've never had a problem since with people being okay with it. I just had to take the initial plunge and be okay with it. We haven't looked back since then and haven't had a problem with it since then. And it has freed me up so that I have so much more free time now to actually work on the business that I want to work on.
Well, that's Coach Calvert. His company is scoreball.com. If you're in the Tulsa area, send your kids to scoreball.com. Thank you, Coach.
Steve, you are certainly not a coach. You're not any way involved financially in what I'm doing. What advice would you say, what encouragement would you say for somebody out there that says, I'm a plumber, I'm a dentist, I'm a doctor, and I know I shouldn't invoice, and I know I have irrefutable proof in front of me, presented in front of me that it will work to not invoice, but I still just want to invoice because people have always done it, because I fear rejection, because everyone in my industry does it. What would you say?
Well, it's a really quick way to the bankruptcy court. So if you want to do that, then I don't know. It's kind of like there's people out there, Clay, that regardless of all of the research that says if you wear your seatbelt, you're like highly more likely to like survive a crash, that don't wear their seatbelt. So, I mean, if you can't be convinced, you can't be convinced. But, you know, I think that in the face of where you're at now as a contractor, if you have a lot of outstanding invoices of people that haven't paid you, what's it going to hurt for you to start asking for payment up front? I think what it does is it allows you to have that difficult conversation at the beginning before you've invested any time or money into the job. And unfortunately, as you probably know, Clay, like the big companies, they don't play that game. You know what I'm saying? If you hire any large company, franchise company, anything like that, they don't like invoice.
Does your bank, when you do a loan for somebody as a mortgage banker and they don't pay their mortgage, do you just kind of let that drift, or do you make them pay? How does that work?
We get a report every 90 days on what we call they look at our compare ratio for FHA loans, for example, to see what loans that we wrote that are in default 30, 60, 90, 120 days or in like foreclosure. And as a lender, we could be limited from even offering FHA loans if our compare ratio got too high. So obviously we want to do loans for people that are going to pay, and we're going to make sure that they pay if they don't. So I've gone as far as I drove out to a guy's house in Owasso or Nowata to knock on his door because he was a first payment default. Like we did his mortgage, he never made the first payment. And so yeah, sure, we're gonna chase the money when we have to. But if you're a contractor, you have the choice whether or not you're going to go do work and spend your own dollar on someone else's house, or if you're going to let them spend their dollar. And if you want to be that guy that, as Clay said in the beginning, becomes the finance company and finances these deals for people,
That's called a bank.
Then that's what you're going to do. You're going to chase down money all the time. You're going to sell less because you're going to be going and trying to get payment from clients.
And that's what Dr. Zellner does. He owns a bank.
Correct.
It's called a bank.
Yep.
Because that's what a bank does. Is it's doing banking.
Yep. And you don't do banking. You do roofing.
You don't do banking. You do
like lawn care.
lawn care. You don't do banking. You do
like car sales.
Car sales. There's
Would
a
you
lot.
walk into a car dealership and be like, "Don't worry, bro. I'll pay you next week." Thank you. That doesn't happen.
It wouldn't work in the grocery stores.
No. Try that today. Go to Whole Foods and get that, like super nice, like organic, whatever it is that you like.
That buffet style lunch there.
And just walk out and see what happens.
Can you invoice me?
I dare you. The only thing that's going to save you is the fact that it's probably under $25 and you may not go to prison for it. So,
Well, without any further ado, let's end this show with a boom.
Got it.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom.